Now coming to another design aspect in Siona, if you particularly enter in any of the flats, you would see that inside the living room, we had tried to achieve a offsetless living room. There is no offset within the living room. Normally we see that there are few columns and few beams, and these offset come inside the living room. So here we had tried to design the RCC in such a way that we had eliminated any kind of offset inside the living room. Here you would see that this is the wall and this is the beam, so there is no offset over here, but this offset has been shifted to the adjacent toilet. Another important aspect is, if you see here, we had provided such kind of tiers of POPs. Now these kind of tiers of the POPs are provided so that we get exact diagonals for the flat after providing the POP. So once the entire POP is done, virtually you'll get exact dimensions inside the flats. So there are two aspects which adds up to the aesthetics of the living room. The first one is we had avoided any kind of offset for the columns and the beams, and we had provided such kind of tiers to ensure that we get exact dimensions as well as exact diagonal inside the living room. So the first feeling when someone enters a living room is altogether a different thing. Now adding to the offset point what we discussed for the living room, if you see, just now I had mentioned that there was a column whose offset has been taken inside the toilet, just to avoid any kind of offset inside the living room. If you see, this offset has been provided inside this toilet. Now this particular offset is going to increase my labor cost while actually installing the tiles for this toilet. But we had been very particular about avoiding any kind of offset inside the living room, no matter if we are going to spend some more amount, particularly for installing the tiles inside this toilet. Coming to various construction practices what we follow at Siona, which differentiates us from rest of the developers is. Now let us see this wall. You would see such kind of plaster work or patchwork done on various of the walls. Now what is this? You would see that there are electrical boards located on this wall, and between these two boards we had cut out certain portion of the wall through which that electrical pipe runs. Now this electrical pipe which is embedded inside this wall is of plastic material, and the wall is of fly ash bricks. So there is a difference in material, and certainly their quotient of expansion and contraction is different. So there are chances that if I directly plaster on this wall, then in future there might be some cracks getting developed on this wall. So to avoid such kind of cracks, what we do is we apply a plaster coat which is having some fibers inside it. Now these kind of fibers provide that expansion and contraction, because of which the possibility of any cracks getting developed on this wall minimizes to much extent. Here you would also see that we had applied such kind of patchwork here as well. Now this is for, there is a difference between that beam and the wall. So again there is a difference between two materials, and that's the reason we are providing such kind of patchwork over here. So these patchwork along with that fibers ensures us that inside this flat we minimize the extent of cracks getting developed later on because of temperature variation. This subframe was as a standard specification provided for all the rest of the windows. Even if you see our sample flats, this particular subframe which is provided for the terrace was not shown in the sample flat. When we later on realized that for the sliding doors there may be some kind of problems which may arise later on because of the gaps which is getting created between the lintel and the subframe as well as the wall and the subframe. So we decided to provide such kind of subframe for the sliding windows as well. So this big scale of subframe has been provided for the sliding window for all the flats. This has been later on introduced in this particular project. Now if you see, after the installation of these subframes, the gaps between the subframe and the wall are virtually filled with concrete, and so there is no gaps created between the subframe and the structure, and this substantially reduces any kind of leakages or seepages which occurs because of again the expansion and contraction. If we instead of putting these subframes, if we install the windows and sliding doors directly on the walls, that's the basic purpose of providing such kind of GI subframes within the flat. Another advantage of providing such kind of subframe is we get the dimensions exact dimensions inside dimensions for the subframe, and that facilitates that particular sliding door or window to operate in a very better way. So, and its life also increases because of that. That is the main reason to provide such kind of subframes inside the flat. Now another aspect of these safety grills which are provided inside the flats, if you see, the safety grills are very neat and clean, but still they provide good kind of safety. The reason behind it is provided with solid rods inside it within the square box frame. Now this box frame is having another angle frame which is fitted from inside. So this kind of safety grill is removable and can be removed from inside. The screws have been provided on the edge, so anybody can remove this grill from inside. This grill has been designed in such a way that it fits exactly edge to edge for the subframe which has been installed at the time of construction. The subframe is having an offset from outside, and this avoids any kind of water seepage happening from the inside edge within the flat. So this subframe and the integrated grill provides a good kind of safety as well as protection from water seepage. Conventional construction practice what we follow at Siona is, you might have seen that ready possession flats, after certain period of time we see yellow patches is getting developed inside the flat, across the flat in fact, throughout the periphery of the walls. To avoid that water, what we can call it is the water getting risen above the walls, because of which the yellow patches gets developed, we had introduced a coping band just above one of the layer of the bricks. Now this coping band is throughout the entire flat. Now this coping band will avoid any kind of water getting raised from the floor to the higher brick levels, in order to avoid any kind of yellow patches getting developed inside the flats. Now another constructional aspect what we follow in Siona is, if you see, these are the electrical DBs which are provided in the passage area. This is for the telephone and TV, and this is for the main electrical DB. All ELC bills are provided inside this. But if you see, these are concealed kind of DBs, and while providing the concealed part, the thickness of this DB is around 2 to 3 inches. And while embedding this kind of DBs within this flat, what happens, especially the area where these DBs have been embedded, the portion of the wall which is on the rear side, the thickness of that wall reduces, and there are much chances that that wall get weakened, and that wall can create more number of cracks in later stage. And to avoid that kind of cracks, we introduce, this is the rear side for the DBs which are provided on the passage area. The wall particularly in this area gets weakened because of that portion of the DB which gets embedded inside the wall. To improve the strength of this wall, we provided such kind of chicken mesh which has been fitted by these washers and nails, and after providing this chicken mesh, we will be doing the plaster work. So this acts as a reinforcement for the plaster which will be provided on the wall, and there are very less chances that any kind of cracks getting developed on this wall. See, another unique specifications what we are providing inside the flat is such kind of red Marandi solid wood door frames for all the bedrooms. Now being solid door frames, the basic advantage of such kind of frames is anchorage with the adjacent wall is good. Another aspect is being since it is a solid wood, when we install the door, and if the door bangs with this frame, there are very less chances that we see any kind of cracks getting developed between the frame and the wall. So such kind of solid red Marandi wooden frames for the bedroom doors are anytime advantageous to regular door frames which are provided in ply. Another construction innovation and construction practices what we follow in Siona is, if you see, for all the ceilings of the flat, it is a common practice that developers apply POP directly to the ceiling. So POP is applied directly on the RCC slab. In our case, we do a plaster and then we apply the POP. Now this is very essential because many times what happens, the floor which is on above this, when we install the tiles, after a certain period of time, it is daily practice that usually people clean their floors, and because of the water seepage between the joints, there is a possibility that we might see some kinds of dampness in the lower in the ceiling of the flat which is below it. When we have this kind of plaster particularly to the ceiling, such kind of dampness is avoided. Another very important aspect in our case is we are doing this kind of plaster by using spray plaster. It is not a regular routine manual kind of plaster, but it is made using machines, and the basic advantage of using spray plaster for the ceiling is we minimize the thickness of the plaster, and not just minimize the thickness of the plaster, but we get a very even surface for the ceiling, and when we apply the POP over it, we get a very smooth and leveled surface to the ceiling of the flat. So certainly that adds up to the aesthetics of the living room. Now coming to the lobby part of the building, if you see, we had provided a spacious lobby. The size of the lobby is good, as well as the shape is provided in a rectangular form, so that the residents of this particular floor can utilize this lobby also for certain activities. You can see, as per the new norms, we have provided two staircases over here. This is one staircase, and there is the fire staircase over there. There are two lifts. One is 13 passenger, one will be 8 passenger. Another important aspect what we had addressed in this lobby is, if you see, we had provided a big size of window over here. Now this window will provide a good kind of ventilation as well as light for this lobby, and this will save much amount of the society. In case there wouldn't have been such kind of window, the society would have installed lights over here and their bill they have to pay, and we have tried to save that kind of expenses by providing a big size of window from ventilation as well as light point of view. One more point for this lobby is, if you see, we have provided an electrical duct over here. Now this duct will be accommodating all the electrical lines for entire flats on this floor as well as various floors, and all the pipes for the electrical main lines are going to run inside this duct, and that will directly go down to the ground floor where their meters will be provided inside the meter rooms. So there is a separate room for our electrical provision, and this will also facilitate in case of any kinds of problems of any kinds of there are some complaints regarding electrical inside the flat. The electrical consultant could, or the electrical person could be able to locate that fault immediately by accessing this electrical duct.